Pivot directions. One of the questions that I receive quite frequently from students that are first starting with CTE Pro 1 is what pivot direction do I use? How do I know what pivot direction to use? Well, there's not any simple answer for that other than the simplest answer would be to say, well, a pivot direction is either going to be one of two directions, from the outside or from the inside. But that's not good enough. Within the context of center to edge aiming, there are visuals that are objective, that connect with the right angles of a regulation table. So what one must really work toward to strive to learn first are the visuals. You really want to learn the visuals. CTE is a visual system. The eyes lead and the body follows. And even in instruction, even as you're learning this system, the eyes come first and then the visual part comes second. So you want to spend a lot of time learning the perceptions, the 15, the 30, the 45, and the 60s. And the way that you can do that is by taking known shots, known cue ball, object ball positions that have been set up for you so that you can't make a mistake. They're essentially error-free. They can be found on my DVD, and there's plenty that can be found on these YouTube videos. So look for things that are known in the beginning, and then you start expanding and spreading your wings with CTE both visually and physically. So what I'm going to do is take you through just a progression of the visuals, 15, 30, 45, and 60. We're going to do an inside. We're going to do some inside and outside pivots, and I'm going to show you some techniques and just some thoughts and comments that I have as I go through it. Now, when you're learning CTE, one of the first things that you're going to learn is when you have a shot that's close to straight in, the pivot's going to come from the outside. In other words, if this is a cut to the left, an outside pivot will always be opposite the cut. So if it's a left cut, it's going to be a right sweep or a right manual pivot. How can you confirm that it is indeed a right manual pivot? Then you want to fix the cue ball. How do you do that? You do that with your visuals. Well, this is a 15. The 15 here, this objective 15, gives me a left edge and a right edge, and it also gives me a fixed center. Well, as I look at this fixed center in relation to that ball, if I were to shoot it in a straight manner, it would be thin. So I need to thicken the shot. An outside pivot, a pivot that comes from the outside, will always thicken the ball. So I'm going to shoot this shot with a Pro 1 outside sweep. My head and upper body is going to go to the outside, to the right. Now I could do that with a manual version. So my tip is on the outside, it's on the right. Then I pivot to center. Now, as this shot gets just a little bit thinner, the outside sweep's not going to make it. The outside pivot is not going to make it. How can I determine that? I'm going to do a 15-degree perception, which will fix my cue ball once again. Left edge to A, center to edge, and as I look at the center of the ball in relation to this object ball, if I were to shoot straight right through that cue ball in this manner, this ball is going to hit thick. So if my perspective of the shot, after I have my visuals, presents me with a thick-looking shot, then I have to thin it. So how do I thin it? Not from the outside. Outside thickens. Thin is in. If I do an inside sweep, it will thin up this shot that looks thick. So here's my inside Pro 1 sweep. Here's the sort of the full circle, half tip version of that, manually. So I'm from the inside, half tip, go to center. Now, as the shot gets thinner, it's my experience visually, I can see, and students that I work with see this in a matter of just an hour or two, that a 15 is not going to make that. You can see this from the camera. The 15 is not going to make that. So we're in the category of a 30 here. Well, I'm not concerned about a 30 and outside, because in 30 and outside is the same thing as a 15 and inside. So we're out of the 15 category. So there's only one 30 that we're going to deal with here, and that's going to be a 30 and inside. So if I'm going to do a 30 and inside, that means this shot must look thick to me. So as I set up on this shot and fix my cue ball, and I look right down at the center of this ball in relation to this ball, it's going to hit into this rail here. So my pivot needs to come from the inside. So here's the Pro 1 sweep. There are my visuals. There's the rotation to center. And then for the manual version of that, so I'm just sort of in the full circle mode here. There's a 30. I'm at the inside. I'm going to go to center. Now, as I progress here, I mean, I can look at this shot right here, and I can see that a 30 won't make it. If I do a strict 30, it won't make it. I could mark the balls and test it out during my practice. I could say, okay, that's a 30. I'm going to go straight in, half a tip to the inside, and pivot to center. And you can see that this ball's wanting to track to another pocket, to this pocket right here. So the inside 30 did not connect with this right angle here. It connected with this right angle up here. So when I set that shot up again, I can see that a 30 won't make this ball. So what's the next progression for this shot? 45 and outside. So this is a one-line visual. I'm going to go straight in, half tip to the outside, and then turn to center. Now, if I take that roughly that same shot, now if I were to move this a little bit this way or this a little bit this way, now the 45 outside won't make that ball. I've shot thousands and thousands and thousands of shots, so my visual intelligence has done what I've asked it to do. Learn the cue ball, object ball relationships around the table and how they connect with these right angles. So it's not something you learn in a week or 2 weeks or even a month. But that doesn't mean you can't start with this system and start playing pretty darn good within a few weeks with it. But what I can assure you is that you're going to continue to learn with it, and it's going to continue to get easier and more professional-like with every week and month and year that passes by. So now when I look at this shot, I know a 45 and outside won't make it. It's not even, it would be a joke to think a 15 would make it. And with just a little bit of experience, you know a 30 won't make it. So you're into a 45. So what do you do during your practice if you're not for sure what it is? Mark the shot, mark the cue ball, mark the object ball, so you can set it up and repeat it. One of the major aspects of learning is repetition. So you want to set this shot up. So this is a 45 and inside. So I can see the 45 right here. I could do a sweep. I'm just going to do an inside manual pivot, full circle version. So there's my 45. Now I'm going to go to center and stroke straight down that line. Now let's look at a 60. Let's say I've got this shot right here. Let's just put it right there. 15 won't make it, 30 won't make it, 45 won't make it. The next progression is 60 and outside. Well, this is not a super thin type 60-degree type cut. So my mind was almost telling me 45. So that's a real strong signal to me that it's 60 and outside. So once I go to this 60 and outside, that means the cut's to the left, the tip's on the outside. Now if I take roughly that same shot, see 45 won't make that ball. If I take that same shot, now I back this up just a little bit. See, this is 60 and outside. If I back it up just a little bit, now the 60 and outside won't make that ball. This is 60 and inside. So if I were to just line up 60 and inside and go straight in and shoot the fixed cue ball, it's going to drive it into the rail. So I need to make it thinner by coming from the inside. So there's my 60. In this full circle advanced level that I'm in, I can find the visual down here. And I would like to see everybody progress into this, and I know that you can. So I'm going to establish my 60. There's the perfect 60 right there. Now my tip's on the inside, so I'm cutting this ball to the left. So my tip is on the left because I need to thin this out some. So now I'm just going to pivot to center and stroke straight down that line. So there's a look at a little bit of what happens when you're considering your pivots as inside and outside. And the one thing that I do not want to convey to you is that this is something you can learn in a day or two. I've had people to pick up on this system very well in a day or two. I've had people to pick up on it very strongly within a week or so. I had one fellow that learned it so well, he was able to run 100 balls and call the visuals out within a week or so of learning the system. That's pretty stout. It's not uncommon for students to get a very good handle on this system in a short time. But what's more typical is that you know, this is a professional aiming. This is a professional system. This is a professional approach to the game. And the reason it's so important is that it connects you with the table. It is what it is. It's very, very natural in that even if you didn't know center to edge, over time, over your Blue Million shots, you're going to start rotating into your shots. You're going to start sweeping right. You're going to start sweeping left. This can be observed by pro players at any pro tournament. So what CTE does, it can give you the huge, huge advantage of objectively dialing in visually and physically for connecting with the pockets of the 2x1 table. So, you know, set up known shots where the visuals and the pivot are known, and then start your progression from there. Expand. As you know a shot, then for example, if you know this shot is 15 and outside because it's almost straight in, then I could have any of you that are watching this right now to set up 500 shots that are close to straight in that have an outside sweep or pivot. So, see, all these shots are outside pivots. All of these shots are outside. That's a cut to the right, so it's a sweep to the left or left to right manual pivot. Now, as this shot becomes a little bit thinner, the 15 outside is not going to make it. You're going to have to go to 15 inside. So, in this manner, you can progress and learn this very, very special system that connects you with aim lines. Thank you once again for your attention.